Chapter 8 Purple Snow, Trouble. After a long while, I gently patted her small face and softly called, Purple Snow, wake up. It took several attempts before her sleepy eyes opened drowsily, and she asked in confusion, what's wrong? I playfully pinched her cute little nose and smiled, saying, you sleepyhead, we've already arrived at the academy. If you don't go back now, there won't be any dinner left. She gradually woke up, realizing that it was already dark outside. She exclaimed, it's so late. I'm in trouble. They're going to make fun of me when I go back. It's all your fault. She started pounding my broad chest with her small fists. My arrogance and coldness had long been thrown out the window at this moment. All I wanted was to cherish the treasure in my arms. I teased her, if you keep hitting me, my old injuries might act up again. Hearing my words, Purple Snow quickly retracted her fists and switched to gently stroking me. She looked up at me and anxiously asked, how about it? Did I hurt you when I hit you? Her expression was so adorable that I burst into laughter. Silly girl, I was just teasing you. You're so gullible. Finally realizing the truth, Purple Snow pouted and said, you're so mean. How could you? I used the most direct method to cut off her words by greedily capturing her sweet lips. We remained like that for a while until she pushed me away and complained, annoying. From now on, you're not allowed to play such jokes on me. Understood, my dear. Using the same approach, I entered the academy with Purple Snow and Black Dragon. After settling Black Dragon in the stable, I held Purple Snow's hand and headed straight for the cafeteria. As we neared the cafeteria, more people were gathering around. Purple Snow tried a few times to free her hand from my firm grip, but I held onto it tightly. The other students we passed by on the way gave us envious and curious glances. Approaching the cafeteria, Purple Snow urged, let go of me now. It's not good for others to see. Besides, relationships between boys and girls are not allowed in the academy. I scoffed, what's wrong with it? Some people saw us holding hands earlier. I want everyone to know that you're mine. Don't you want that? As for the academy's stupid rules, they're unreasonable to begin with. Let's ignore them. I've got everything under control. With that, I pulled her into the cafeteria. Purple Snow whispered, now you've really gotten me into trouble. How can anyone attend classes in the academy after this? I said casually, making trouble? Why would I be scared of that? If I were afraid, I wouldn't have come here. Let's eat now. Purple Snow protested softly, don't cause any more trouble. You've just been released from confinement. I smiled and said, don't worry about it. People like him won't give up easily when they make threats. Just leave it to me. Let's eat first. We bought our meals and sat down to eat. Just as we were about to start, a familiar voice interrupted us. What a sweet scene. It's almost sickening. Without even looking, I knew it was Wind Cloud. He came over with a plate in hand and sat down beside me. I said, take a seat. Your mouth can't be stopped even by eating. Wind Cloud sat down beside me but ignored me. He turned to Purple Snow with a playful grin and asked, Miss Purple Snow, how did Thunder Rumble manage to win you over? Can you tell me? You're the dream girl of most of the guys here. Yet, you let this kid get ahead of us. I glared at Wind Cloud irritably. He seemed to be completely oblivious and eagerly awaited Purple Snow's response. Purple Snow glanced at me, then whispered softly, I don't know. It should be that I won him over instead. Since the first time I saw him, I couldn't help but fall for him. But I never expected him to like me back. I always felt he was so lonely and distant. I never thought he'd have feelings for me. I trembled all over. I didn't expect Purple Snow to openly express her feelings like this. Strong emotions surged within me, and I held her small hand tightly, saying deeply, no, that's not the right way to put it. You're the greatest gift that heaven has given me. Wind Cloud exclaimed, I can't take it anymore. I'm out of here. He turned and fled. Purple Snow and I shared a smile and continued our sweet dinner. After we finished eating, Purple Snow saw that I wasn't moving and understood that I was waiting for Warren and the others. She held my hand and whispered, "Shall we leave? Let's not get involved with them." I glanced at Sishue, her face filled with anxious concern. Reluctantly, I abandoned my principles. Helplessly, I said, "All right, I'll let them off this time for your sake." I took Sishue's hand and walked toward the cafeteria's entrance. Just as we reached the doorway, we coincidentally bumped into Hualuan, who was returning. Frowning, I thought to myself, this guy is really asking for trouble. Hualuan saw Zishue and me about to leave and assumed I was backing down. He sneered, I thought you were more courageous. Turns out you're just putting on a show. Planning to run with your tail between your legs? It won't be that easy." I coldly stared at him and said, "Let me see how many reinforcements you've brought to be so arrogant." Hualuan disdainfully replied, "Strength isn't about quantity, but quality. Today, I'll show you what real skills are." "Is that so? Then I'll wait and see," I responded. A chilly snort echoed from outside the door, making my heart tremble as my expression changed. Based solely on the sound, this person had the power to affect my state of mind. His strength was truly unfathomable, no wonder Hualuan was so confident. A figure walked in from outside, towering as tall as me. Though not as bulky, he exuded a daunting force. With a lean face and gleaming eyes, he was an enigmatic presence. Who was this? I was already at a disadvantage in terms of aura, suppressed by him. The newcomer first bowed deeply to Zishue, saying, "Long time no see, Miss Zishue. Leva pays his respects. Please convey my regards to the Duke." His actions clearly showed that he didn't hold me in high regard. What surprised me more was that Sishue's father was a duke, an equal among princes. No wonder no one dared to disrespect her. Zishue calmly responded, "Leva Sr., there's no need for formalities. You should be graduating this year, right? Why are you here to witness this commotion?" I felt grateful, as Zishue was reminding me that this person was from the 5th year, implying his high status among the aristocracy. Leva casually said, "I heard from Hualuan that someone was disrespectful toward Miss Zishue, so I came to see and discipline this arrogant individual." Zishue stated, "That's unnecessary. He's my friend and someone very dear to me. Our matters don't require outside interference." Her words warmed my heart. Upon hearing Zishue, Leva's eyes gleamed intensely. He stared directly at me, and I met his gaze unflinchingly. He said, "I want to see who can capture Miss Zishue's heart, a lady who has always treated men as insignificant." Although I knew this person wasn't easy to deal with, I couldn't back down now. I pulled Zishue aside and said, "You stay here and watch. Don't intervene, I've got this. Your presence will distract me, so stay put and behave." Finally convincing Zishue, who was reluctant to leave, I activated my wild god's chi throughout my body. Secretly using a levitation spell, I focused on my opponent. Everyone knew that a confrontation was imminent. "Who's causing trouble in the cafeteria again?" A deep voice resounded. Both Leva and I were taken aback. A figure entered from outside the cafeteria. It was Vice Dean. His expression was grim as he scanned the surroundings, ultimately fixing his gaze on me. With a furrowed brow, he scolded, "Lei Xian, how can it be you again? You've just been released from confinement, or did you forget?" He even winked at me. Before I could answer, Leva spoke up first. With a polite smile, he addressed Vice Dean, "Vice Dean, greetings. We're not causing any trouble, we were just chatting. There's no need to worry." Vice Dean looked at him sternly and said, "Leva, as the son of the Lavos Dragon Knight and the leader of the Academy's Heavenly Dragon Group, you should be mindful of your influence within the Academy. I'll let this slide for now, but if anyone engages in unauthorized fighting again, don't blame me for being stern. Expulsion will be immediate." It turned out Leva had a significant background, no wonder he appeared so formidable. Vice Dean was clearly reminding me of his status. Leva respectfully replied, "Yes, Vice Dean." All right, everyone disperse and carry on with whatever you were doing. Leva, Hualuan, come with me. Lei Xian, I warn you, your punishment was just lifted. If you repeat the offense, you heard what I said earlier. Let's go. Before leaving, Leva glanced at me meaningfully and softly said, I hope you can hold on until the Academy's annual martial arts competition. Hualuan gave me a fierce glare. I responded to their challenge with a determined gaze. Vice Dean turned and left, and Jean Lily emerged from his departing figure. She skipped over excitedly, holding Zixue's arm and saying, how's that? I arrived just in time, didn't I? Vice Dean came because of my call. Now, how are you going to thank me? I snorted disdainfully from the side. You're so meddlesome. Jean Lily's face reddened with anger. She yelled loudly, if it weren't for Zixue, I wouldn't help you. Do you even realize Leva's strength? He's already an Earth Knight, nearly on par with a Dragon Knight. You can't compare. Well, that's my business. You don't need to meddle. You. Zixue tugged at my sleeve, looking at me pleadingly. I looked at Jean Lily and snorted before gently saying, Zixue, let me walk you back. Zixue whispered, it's not necessary. I'll go back with Sister Lily. She's already upset. Glancing at Jean Lily, who was fuming, I said, all right, take care then. I'll head back for now. Let's have lunch together tomorrow noon. After saying that, I gave Zixue a light kiss on her cheek and turned to leave the cafeteria. I enjoyed the feeling of kissing her, her tender and delicate skin was enchanting. Left behind were the blushing Zixue and the sulking Jean Lily. Zixue's voice came from behind, you're not allowed to go find any nurses from now on. Even concerning someone as reserved as Zixue, she wouldn't let anything slip past when it came to her loved ones. Hearing her words, I couldn't help but think of Clan. During those 10 days in the hospital, I could sense her fondness for me. Her gaze was so clear and sincere. I had to find an opportunity to clarify things with her. After all, now Zixue was my choice. Forget it, where there's a will, there's a way. I'll figure out how to handle this without hurting Clan. Well, cars must follow the road they're on. I'll wait 10 years as my father suggested. Yes, I'll stay here for 10 years before returning to the Orc Nation. This idea is really touching. However, I immediately rejected it. What's the point of going back? There's nothing good there, not even a person to talk to. Everywhere is filled with hatred, robbery, and conflict. Just thinking about it sends a chill down my spine. Better to stay here where it's comfortable. Father gave me 5 to 10 years, right? Well, I'll spend a decade here. After 10 years, I'll return to the Orc Nation. Father and others might accuse me of being unpatriotic, but I don't see it that way. What nation do I have to love? In reality, I also have a quarter of human blood running through me. Early in the morning, I was awakened by their calls. After breakfast, I decided to find Teacher Zhuang before classes to let her know I had returned. She cared about me, so I felt it was necessary to tell her first. I knocked on the door, and a familiar voice came from inside, who's there? Come in. I entered Teacher Zhuang's office, and she was sitting behind her desk, engrossed in something. When she saw me, a pleased expression crossed her face. She stood up from her chair and grabbed my sturdy arm, saying, Lei Xiang, you're back. Have you been through a lot during this time? Why did she care so much about me? I could sense that her concern was genuine. Her words warmed my heart, and my nose felt a bit tingly. From childhood until now, my mother had never shown any concern for me. Yet, why did a teacher I had known for less than 4 months care about me so deeply? In a hoarse voice, I replied, Teacher, thank you for your concern. I'm doing fine. Teacher Zhuang sighed and said, It's all my fault for not being able to help you. I can't absolve you of your punishment. The Vice Dean insisted on confining you for 3 months. Starting today, come to my office for extra lessons in the evenings. You mustn't slack off. Your potential is exceptional, and my expectations for you are high. Thank you, teacher. But I think it's unnecessary. Actually, Vice Dean was doing it for my own good. Please don't blame him. I recounted to Teacher Zhuang Vice Dean's intentions and my efforts during this time of confinement. I left out the part about the wild god's qi and the book, as the wild god's qi wasn't suitable for everyone, and I had my own reasons. She suddenly realized, so I misunderstood Vice Dean. You're quite remarkable to have learned all the basic magic spells in just 3 months. After this, avoid conflicts with those noble students. You can't beat them. I resentfully said, what's so great about the nobles? Just because they were born with silver spoons in their mouths, they think they have privileges? I despise people like that the most. They didn't earn anything themselves, yet they act so arrogantly. Yesterday, after being released from confinement, I almost got into a fight with Leva during dinner. He's the most formidable noble I've ever seen. What? Leva? He's the top warrior of the academy and also the leader of the Heavenly Dragon group. His family's ancestral dragon subduing Qi is incredibly powerful. His father holds considerable power in the court. How did you end up provoking him? He's different from other nobles, he's well educated and generally doesn't provoke others easily. What exactly happened? I blushed and said, Teacher, it's time for class. I'll tell you later. Teacher Zhuang fixed me with a sharp gaze, realizing my attempt to change the subject. I understand now. Embarrassed, I said, Teacher, it's not about Zixue. I just don't like Hualuan. Teacher Zhuang had a triumphant look and smiled. I was just pretending earlier. Now I really understand. So, it's about Zixue. She's a good girl. You must cherish her. But remember, in the academy, you need to be discreet. After all, relationships between students are not allowed. I was taken aback. Teacher, you're not opposed to me and Zixue. Teacher Zhuang said matter-of-factly, opposed? Why would I be? At your age, it's normal to be driven by emotions. I have to remind you, though, that you must control yourself and not cause trouble. And even if I were to oppose it, would it matter? Although we haven't known each other for long, I feel I understand your personality quite well. Foolish boy, when you encounter someone you like, don't easily give up, but also make sure not to hurt the other person, understood? I nodded, saying, yes, teacher. It seemed like Teacher Zhuang remembered something and said, by the way, after you were confined, a girl came to look for you. She seemed to be a nurse from the affiliated hospital of our academy. She's quite pretty and seems clever. I told her you were confined, and she looked quite sad. She said she'd come see you after you were released. It should be within these few days. You're not playing both sides, are you? Wait, does Clan really like me? Why else would she come looking for me? If she does visit me, how should I respond to her? Regarding Clan, I couldn't say I had no affection for her, but I was afraid that her involvement would jeopardize my relationship with Zixue. I fell into contemplation. Teacher Zhuang pushed me lightly and said, I'm asking you a question. Startled out of my reverie, I realized I needed to explain myself. How should I address Teacher Zhuang? She treated me so well, and I couldn't bring myself to lie to her. Thinking quickly, I said, by the way, Teacher Zhuang, I heard from the Vice Dean that our academy holds an annual martial arts competition. Can you tell me more about it? Although she knew I was trying to change the subject to avoid answering her question, Teacher Zhuang's curiosity was piqued. She answered, the martial arts competition is quite significant. It's a way for the academy to assess the students. It takes place annually in February, which means it will happen at the end of this semester. It's also a shortcut to entering official positions. Students who rank within the top 10 have the possibility of joining the Dragon Knight Corps. I inquired, do all the students participate together? Teacher Zhuang shook her head, explaining, it's divided by year. The academy has 5 grades, and each class selects 2 students to participate. When I mentioned the top 10, I was referring to the top 10 students from the 5th grade. In other words, there will be 10 students selected from the 5th grade, each from a different class. Although there have been talented lower-grade students, generally, the 5th grade has the highest level of skill, and they are close to graduation. The top 10 from the 5th grade are considered fortunate and will undoubtedly receive significant attention. To avoid talent going to waste, the Academy stipulates that the champion of a lower grade can challenge the champion of a higher grade. If they win, they can directly enter the 5th grade. So that's how it works. No wonder Leva told me to hold on until I met him. To challenge him, I'd have to become the grade champion first. Teacher Zhuang continued, therefore, you must diligently practice and strive to become the grade champion. Speaking of which, I feel quite embarrassed. Despite having taught a few magic warrior classes, I usually end up with students ranking within the bottom 2. You must redeem my reputation. Our grade has admitted more students this year, so there are a total of 6 classes and 12 students participating. Even if you don't become the champion, you must at least make it into the top 3. You and Feng Wen have great potential. I plan to have both of you participate. Isn't the class leader, Feng Wan, the champion? Wouldn't it be more suitable for her to compete? Teacher Zhuang chuckled and said, that chubby girl? She's quite competitive, but she became the class leader mostly by luck. Do you think I can't tell who has real talent? If you and Feng Wen hadn't both been injured, she wouldn't have become the class leader. I'll handle her when the time comes. Anyway, hurry now, we've talked for too long. Classes have already begun. I realized the time issue and quickly rushed toward the direction of the classroom with Teacher Zhuang's encouragement.